designated by the New York State Education Department to need a little bit of a boost, to need some help, to need some extra workshops and the like. And we go in to work with the staff one-to-one to help them improve their process and their programming. And again, we do that again every day for years on end. Again, so as I mentioned, we have the Include Fair that takes place in January. Outdoors for Autism took place this very last weekend. College is Possible will be taking place in the fall. Please, our website is really simple. I'll put it in the chat, www.includenyc.org. Sign up, and you will get all this information. It will tell you how to book a workshop if you want one for your specific school or district. And we're available to do all that work for you. And we have, again, the website has so much information in it and links directly to other kinds of information that we provide. We also send out a weekly newsletter that really has all the highlights of education resources from all over. And it's really good background material because, as we always say, we're our child's best advocate. And the more you know about your child's disability, the more you know about your legal rights for your child, the better you can be as a parent for your child. And again, here's our website, www.includenyc.org. And the website automatically translates into English or Spanish or any number of languages, any language included, and also our helpline. If you have parents that speak languages other than English or Spanish, we can hook in an interpreter right on the spot and be able to speak to them in their language so that they can get their questions answered. Again, I really appreciate your having me here today. Here's the numbers and all the information about us. And again, the website is updated every week. It's really active, so I invite you to use us. That's what we're here for. And I hope, we've been a good resource for many of you, and I hope the rest of you will join in and invite us to your schools. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to take a look.
Okay. Give me a second here. I don't see any hands. I am going through okay. Celia, you can ask your question or comment.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Roma. How are you?
Good morning, Celia.
It's great to see you. Great to see you. So I just wanted to comment on the parent member training. I know that every parent is not necessarily going to become a parent member, but I do think it's an important training to take if you really want to understand your rights as a parent of a child with an IEP, if you really want to understand your students' rights as a child with an IEP. It's an excellent course to take. It's a commitment because it's not a 2-minute thing, but it is worth it. And if anything, if nothing else, it will make you a better advocate on behalf of your own child. So I am hoping that many, many people sign up and take it. Is it offered at all in this coming summer or no?
No, we're not going to do it over the summer because we have to do it with our partner at the DOE, and most of them will be away. But we are going to do it twice in each borough over the course of next school year. You don't have to be in the borough in which we're doing it, but we are going to be doing it twice. So again, look for it on the calendar. we'll start posting things, in a few weeks. We're finishing out this year's workshops, but that is a state mandated training. So we do work with the DOE and New York State to present it. And as Celia said, it's a wonderful training. It takes about 4 hours. You become certified and fingerprinted to become a parent member. And it's really worthwhile, if not just only for the information. It goes through in depth the whole IEP process, which actually for many parents, it's kind of invisible. We don't realize all the steps that go into it. So the parent member training really gives you all the background and legal resources that are behind special education. Thank you, Celia. It's wonderful to see you again.
I just wanted to ask though, I know that
I'm gonna ask Celia, please, no back and forth. The 2 minutes are up.
Okay.
There's a so I'm sorry.
Okay.
So anyone else before I give Celia back the floor, because I'm trying to look through the chat and I'm not seeing any questions for Ruth.
Okay.
So Celia, go ahead. You have the floor again for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think it will take 2 minutes. I just wanted to ask in terms of the parent member training, because I've been a parent member since '98 and keep retaking it to fresh up, have the fresh information. For those who have already left school, because I have a number of parents that contact me that have already left DOE either because their kids graduated out or because they age out at 21 or something like that. How long after can they still take that parent member training? Because I know there was a debate about that. I think it was 2 years initially.
Yeah, it used to be 5 years. I need to double check that because the state rewrote the training. They made it longer a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to check with them exactly on that and a couple of other things so that when we do it next, we start doing it in the fall, we'll have that information. But it used to be if your child left the system within the next 5 years, you could still be a parent member. I will double check on that, and certainly will let parents know when they contact us.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you. Anyone else has questions for Ruth at this time? I see. Okay. That's not on topic. Anyone else have questions for Ruth? So I'm going to ask Ruth, can you stop sharing at this time?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for coming here and
thank you. Thank you for having
reminding of, no problem, reminding us what services you provide, which is a very important service to our education community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What time is it? We got 3 minutes before I give Wendy the floor. So I see Dr. Melendez is here and Jesse is still here. There's a question. What day will the citywide Community Education Council results will be out?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm having
Yes,
all kinds
ma'am.
of issues. Okay.
No problem.
Perfect. We're working really hard on the results. I know they're really important to all of us, and everyone has worked in their own ways to ensure either candidates or votes and all of those things. And so, number one, thank you for a wonderful election season. Number two, it's been a tricky season. All of our elections are up, and so we are hoping to have them by next week, ideally in the latter part of the week, but I'm hoping for sooner rather than later. And so I don't want to commit to a day of the week specifically next week, but definitely next week is the goal.
Awesome. Did you want to add, I know you came on, maybe would you like to add to what Jesse said, or at the end after you collaborate what points he brought out, because he was really kind of muffled. He did put it in the chat though, what he mentioned. Did you want to add anything to that before I give Ms. Truel the floor?
Yeah, no, I do want to take a moment in this June meeting and say thank you to all of you. We've had a wonderful year of your recommended school visits and us being able to go on those school visits and learn with you what makes these schools great. And I wanted to make sure that I thanked you and took this opportunity to thank you on behalf of myself and my team. And I think that's it for now.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Melendez. So let me just share, share my screen here for a second. So now from New York City Engagement Commission to talk to us about the people's money, we have Miss Wendy Truel. You have the floor, and yes, I will share the slides for you. Let me bring those up. So Wendy, you have the floor. She's still on, right, Randy?
Yes.
Oh, maybe she's having problems with audio. Wendy, can you hear us? Because we can't hear you. I see you're unmuted. I'm correct, right? Nobody can hear her?
No.
She just typed it in the chat that her audio is not working. Maybe she can log off and back in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So when you do that for us, log off and log back in. All right, she's gonna do that. Stop. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Okay, so since there's more questions for Face, we're gonna, while we wait for her to log back in, can you explain why one of the mandatory orientations is I guess this again is for the Education Council, being held in person instead of keeping all three as virtual? And is there an option to attend that in-person orientation virtually?
That's such a great question. And I can definitely chime in on that. We, in the past, with the exception of course, during COVID, they have been in-person orientations. And of course, because of COVID, they've sort of switched to virtual. What we are trying to do is take lessons learned from this year and a half, where I've sort of been able to come in the middle of the previous elected bodies and learn a lot about, what's working, what's not working, and what we can do better. And I think we're taking orientation. Our hope is to take orientation time in person to really have a full day of a variety of things, right? We're bringing in a bunch of folks that are different into a conversation that we hope that they are collaborative and are sharing their thoughts respectfully and supportive of one another and their community. And so we want to create opportunities for leadership training, opportunities for team building, opportunities for folks to really make those connections and build best intentions for their council. And so the goal is to do that in person. Those sessions will be facilitated by outside folks who really understand team building in this particular elected space. And so we're really excited to offer that opportunity. And then the other two sessions are going to be very much roles and responsibilities heavy, and the work that is really sort of very state regulated for CECs. And so that's sort of how those those decisions were made and split up. And I think many of us can agree that in-person team building is by far better than trying to do team building virtually, and that we have an opportunity here and a desire from many of our outgoing council members to have that kind of thing. I think initially we used to go really heavy on regs and state law, and now we're trying to do that and add this component as well. So that's sort of the thinking there.
Okay, so Wendy is back. We are going to have her speak, and then we can address back those issues towards the end. So Wendy, you have the floor. Uh-oh. Here we go. Wendy, you have to mute one of your computers. Bring the
Can you all hear
volume
me?
down. Yeah, you're gonna have to lower the volume on one of your devices.
Can you hear me now?
That's, yes, no echoes.
I'm so
Perfect.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to dial in from Colorado, and my mother's computer has issues. I'm sorry. I'm here.
Not a
Thank you
problem.
so much for your
Okay.
patience. I really appreciate it. Wonderful. So thank you so much for including me on the agenda. And again, I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties. I am grateful to be here to share with you information about the people's money. Our first citywide participatory budgeting program. Next slide, please. So I'm here from the Civic Engagement Commission, not to be confused with the other CEC, same acronym, but a different sorry, apologies. I don't know what is going on with this camera. Apologies. So we are the Civic Engagement Commission. I'm sorry. So today I want to introduce you a bit to who we are. I don't know if folks are familiar, have heard of the Civic Engagement Commission before, but give you a brief overview and also explain the citywide participative budgeting program and the phase that we are in currently, which is our voting phase. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Great. So I don't know, has anyone, I don't know if there could be a quick show of hands for people who have heard about the Civic Engagement Commission. I do believe there's been maybe some information that has been shared about the people's money. Okay, I see a hand, I see a couple hands. Wonderful. That's amazing. That's great. So we actually, the Civic Engagement Commission was voted into existence based on our democratic process as part of the charter revision process. There were a number of ballot initiatives in 2018, and New Yorkers overwhelmingly voted in favor of creating the Civic Engagement Commission. And so now we're actually written into the New York City Charter. And one of the things that we are charged with doing is running a citywide participatory budgeting process. We are the first democratically elected commission responsible for restoring civic trust and strengthening democracy by promoting inclusive participation for all New Yorkers. In addition to running a citywide participatory budgeting program, we do provide supplementary poll site language interpretation services at the poll sites. The Board of Elections provides interpretation services in 5 languages, and we provide additional language interpretation services at poll sites. We've also recently merged with Democracy NYC, which used to be part of the mayor's office, and that Democracy NYC is an initiative to encourage folks to go to the polls. We also provide technical assistance and training to community boards, and just generally engage in community partnerships and education about civic engagement for New Yorkers. Next slide, please. So about citywide participatory budgeting, have people heard of PB before? Are people familiar with what that is? I know it's kind of a mouthful. Okay, I see a few hands. It's been, PB is a democratic process in which community members decide how to spend part of a public budget. It's been implemented all over the world in multiple cities and counties, and has been here, actually, been in practice here in New York City since 2011, but by the city council. And so that means the city council members elect to participate in this process and put up a portion of their discretionary capital funding. But this is the very first year that we are running this citywide. And so that means anyone in the city of New York, 11 and older, and regardless of citizenship status, can participate in this process. And the process is called the People's Money. And if you've heard or have participated in your city council process, it's known as PBNYC. Next slide, please. So it's on September 14th, we launched our first ever citywide process. Again, all New Yorkers 11 and up, regardless of immigration status, can decide how to spend $5 million. This is all expense, which is very different from the city council process, which tends to be capital. This is all expense funding. That means that projects and services can be funded. We are running a borough-based process. So anyone, again, anyone 11 and older, regardless of citizenship status, can vote on their borough ballot. And in addition, we have an local equity process in 33 neighborhoods that were hardest hit by COVID as part of our task force for racial inclusion and equity. And so that $5 million is divided between those two processes, a borough process and a neighborhood process. And that means if you live in one of those 33 neighborhoods, you have two ballots that you can vote on. One is your local neighborhood ballot and one is your borough ballot. If you do not live in one of those equity neighborhoods, you're participating in the borough ballot. We have 4 phases of our process. Next slide, please. The first phase is idea generation. That kicked off in September when we launched. The second phase is project vetting, which means all the ideas that come in, we vet and develop into projects. There's an operational stage in between, which is creating those ballots and all of the things that need to be done in between to get ready for the vote. And that includes translations and so forth. We are now in our voting phase. We have until June 25th for folks to vote on our ballots. And then starting once we receive the results from the votes, we move into implementation phase. So next year we'll be implementing the projects that receive the highest votes. Next slide, please.
I'm on this computer. Here we go.
So phase 1, idea generation, we ran this process between September and November. We brought on 82 nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations, and they facilitated 523 workshops. In those sessions, people had an opportunity to understand the budget. For those of us in New York City who try to understand the New York City budget, I think we all can appreciate that's a little opaque. It's a little difficult to understand. And it's an important thing for us to explain what's in the budget and the types of funding that's available for different categories of spending. And we were able to achieve that through kind of gamifying it, making it fun, making it interactive. We had trivia cards. We asked for people to create their own budget with stickers on a poster. And so there was an opportunity for a lot of conversation, discussion about what the needs were and what people's priorities were at the community level. And so, it's interesting because, I think New Yorkers are very busy. We all know how hard it is sometimes to get people to participate in civic engagement activities. These are almost 2-hour workshops, sometimes more, sometimes a little less. We also held them virtually, but we had 12,344 New Yorkers be a part of these 2-hour workshops, which is pretty remarkable. And that really means this has been community driven from the very beginning. Communities coming together, having conversations, having dialogue, surfacing needs, sharing that with each other and talking about what they'd like to see happen in their community and what they wanted to see funded. In the end, we had over 4,000 ideas. That was quite the exercise to figure out how to look at these ideas, make sense of them. We had a lot of overlap. A lot of those ideas may have not been eligible for the type of funding or amount that we had, and so we had to remove those. But you can see the ideas that we submitted on our online platform and the link below. Next slide, please. Phase 2, our project evaluation phase. For our 5 borough ballots, we convened representative committees for every borough who demographically, socioeconomically represented the boroughs to come together to look at these ideas, to narrow them down, to determine what would go for the towards the ballot. In our 33 equity neighborhoods, we have anchor partners who are doing coalition building in those communities, and they have coalitions that they work with other stakeholders, and they brought them together to sit down and have these conversations to determine what would go forward on the ballot. These representatives groups held meetings between January and February. Our borough committees, we call them the BACs, the Borough Assembly Committees, met for over 14 hours over the course of between that time period to debate and deliberate and vote on what would go forward. And those projects that you see are a result of that participatory process that brought all of these New Yorkers, all of these residents together to have dialogue and to make decisions. Those were not projects that we put forward as a commission, as a city agency. They came directly from the people. Next slide, please. So voting, we are now in voting. So all of that work that's been happening, all of these New Yorkers coming together to make decisions and again, surface priorities, we are in vote phase. And that means everybody in the city of New York, 11 and older, can vote on these ballots. Again, as I explained, you folks either have 2 ballots they can vote on or 1 ballot, depending on where they live, the neighborhood that they live in. On the right-hand side, these are all of the neighborhoods where there is a local process. And again, that's based on the Task Force for Racial Inclusion Equity neighborhoods and those neighborhoods that have a high level of disparity. Next slide, please. So how to vote? Voting online is pretty simple. This year we're using the same system that City Council uses for anyone who's had the opportunity to participate in their City Council process. It's the same system. It's very easy. It's very quick. You just go in, you enter your zip code, and that pulls up automatically the ballots that you're eligible to vote in. We also have paper ballots, and we have a online listing of all the places folks can vote in person. New York Public Libraries is hosting ballots in all of their libraries. We have community-based organizations hosting a ballot box and paper ballots. They're translated into multiple languages. There are libraries throughout the city that also host. And so if people want to go and don't want to be online, vote online, but vote in person, you can find a site near you. The ballot itself, it depends on what on the borough, how many projects we will fund because of the allocation. The allocation process was determined based on the population in each borough, in addition to the number of people who were below the poverty level. So that meant there's a little bit of redistribution. So some funding, it's very core to our mission and our principles to ensure that we are including and investing resources in underrepresented communities and communities that have high levels of disparity. Again, those are Bronx, for example, is receiving more funding than they would have received just based on population, because there's a higher level of poverty in the Bronx as a whole. We have a lot of projects that are specific to young people. That was the largest category of project ideas that we received, or at least one of them. And those were the projects that were, as the largest category, made it to the ballot. So I really appreciate the presentation we just heard from Include NYC. We have a summer camp for children with autism. That is something that people felt was missing in the Bronx. That's something that people push forward. We have a lot of after school programming. We have field trip for middle schoolers. There's just a real like array of projects that are specific to young people. There's intergenerational program, there's job training, there's programming for NYCHA developments. So I really encourage you all to check out those programs and of course vote. Next slide, please. So how to get involved? We are really encouraging folks to help post online. We're a relatively small team compared to the size of the city, 8 million New Yorkers, and we're trying to get as many people to be a part of this process and decide how public money is spent, which is a huge lift for us. We have digital ads that are out there. Hopefully, maybe some of you will see some of our subway ads that we have. We have ads in bus shelters. We're advertising on Facebook, on Instagram. We have a bunch of young people who have developed TikTok videos. So we're really trying to lean in. In addition, we have organizations who are on the ground promoting the vote in all of these neighborhoods. So we have a toolkit, we have a bunch of assets. Some of those assets were developed by local artists in each borough. We have videos again, so a lot of like very storytelling kind of assets that are very dynamic, that we're trying to get out as much as we can. And the more we can get the word out, the better. And so appreciate folks' willingness to post our social media kit on your networks. Organizations can also sign up to host a ballot. Schools, I mean, trying to get into schools has been honestly a little bit of a challenge. We're trying to come at it from multiple angles, working through centrally and getting it into newsletters, but also having some of the partners that we're working with reach out to schools in our communities. Again, because we have a rule that allows young people to be a part of this, it's a really great pathway for young people to feel heard, to say their opinion. And so being able to talk to all of you, to share it with parents, to share it with young people, to share it with middle schools, to share it with high schools is really critical for us. It's a great way to get our numbers up, obviously, and a great way to introduce this concept. You may all be aware that public participatory budgeting is in the school system. To some extent, there are many schools that participate, but not all. So it's a great way to get young people involved in this way. And then we're also always looking for volunteers to come out and help us. We do provide some compensation. We provide gift cards to come out and talk to people, to get people excited by this idea and to participate. I think that might be the last slide, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that is the last slide.
All right, thank you, Wendy. I see Senator Benedetto is here early, but I don't see any questions in the chat. Randy put links for you in the chat. And okay, so thank you so much, Wendy. Can you stay on longer just in case people might have questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate your patience with the technical difficulties. And I really hope you all, first of all, you all vote. Please vote. Get your families to vote. Get your kids to vote. We've had such a great experience getting young people when we say, hey, you can vote too. You know, sometimes kids are like, really, I can. You know, I think it's a really great opportunity to have conversations about what's going on in your community. So please, get out the word and please vote with your friends, with your neighbors, and anything you can do to promote it in your own schools. I'd really be grateful. I could put my contact information in the chat. So if you want us to connect with your schools, we'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you for reminding us our voice matters. This is another way of making our voice heard through these participatory budget. Especially this is the first citywide, so we want to have full engagement. So now, without further ado, we have Assemblyman Michael Benedetto from Assembly District 82.
Good morning to everybody. I start with an apology to everybody. My time's extremely limited today. We are in session up here. in Albany is the closing day or days of session, and we are going to be having a committee meetings of Ways and Means and Rules, which I am both on, so I will be running to them. So my time is limited, but by all means, I'm here right now. I listen to you, I listen to your questions, and I'll be guided for as long as I can by what you're saying.
All right, so anyone has questions for the Assemblyman Benedetto, especially parents from the Bronx? Well, and until somebody raised their hands, can you just give
Okay.
us briefly what is, give us an update of what's going on in Albany right now with the budget, or anything that you would like to address and let
Yeah,
parent
sure.
leaders know?
Sure. The budget, of course, was passed late, but we finally passed the budget. There were many issues that were on the table that kept us from passing an on-time budget. It did not involve education. I believe we have passed the best education budget in the history of the state of New York. Very, very proud of that. The money that we have allotted to the foundation aid, we have finally made and made good on the foundation aid that we were under court order to do, that people were saying for years that this should be done. And finally, I'm very proud that it's been underneath my direction as education chair that we have finally done so. So it wasn't the education budget holding up of the chamber. Right now, we are in the final days educationally. The things that we're doing now, of any educational significance, is we will apparently be passing a bill tomorrow or in the early mornings of Saturday, a bill to create a Diwali holiday, to allow New York City to have a Diwali holiday and to have the state of New York honor the Lunar New Year. Those are the two developments in the education area. There's a lot of discussion going on right now educationally in regards to the evaluation of teachers. What they call the APPR bill. There has been negotiations going on with the state, New York State United Teachers, and with the city UFT in this regard. They have been in discussions over the past several weeks, and they apparently are at loggerheads. We have been listening to what is being said by the state education department, led by our commissioner, Betty Rosa, and of course, the representatives from the various union officials. And while on a couple of occasions, they came to me and said, "We're this close. We'll have a bill to you by this afternoon." This afternoon never came, and we have no bill as yet. And when I was talking with just yesterday, Commissioner Rosa, and the night before with President Mulgrew, both were kind of entrenched in their position. So eventually an evaluation process will be determined, but just not at this time. And it may have to wait for another couple months. But there we are on that. And that's what's basically happening educationally. And like I say, the big education thing was a month ago when we finally passed the budget. And like I say, it was a very, very proud moment for me when that budget passed and we did what we had to do. Now we just look at the remaining over 750 school districts in the state of New York, and we say to them, please, by all means, we've given you this money. Please use it wisely, use it fairly, and so our children can profit from it and move ahead. A lot of concerns, of course, going into the budget and allocating this money in regards to the mental well-being of our children. On so many different levels, recovering from the trauma of the COVID years, dealing with the spectra of suicide that's out there, and to get them the right mental health to make them come through to be good, well-adjusted people in our society. And I'm trying to think if there was really anything else coming up down the pay line, but I don't think so. I think that's probably it, down the pipeline, I should say.
So thank you so much. We do have one raised hand.
Yeah.
Adriana, you have the floor.
Thank you. And thank you, Assemblymember Benedetto. I have a question with respect to the increase or this increase in funding that you were discussing.
Yeah.
What specific measures, if any, have been taken or will be taken to ensure that the money that's been, the increase in the funds rather that has been worked so hard for this year is going to be used to improve student outcomes in an effective way? Is there anything that's written into that?
There is nothing written into that I can really point to, except issues like that, which of course is of prime importance, is basically left to the state education department for reviewing the individual superintendents and school districts to see how they're doing. It also goes to, and for your question leads me to another question. Up here, one of the most difficult things I have to deal with are my colleagues, because they have tons of bills that they have in education. Bills, for instance, like ensuring that seniors don't graduate from high school without courses in finance to make sure they're financially literate. What we would call curriculum bills. And for the same reason, as far as the money goes, the curriculum goes the same way. Largely, these are issues that happen locally. We want everybody to be financially literate, and it's incumbent upon those assembly members and the concerned people of that district to go to their superintendents, to tell them what their what they want in the outcomes in school. And if it's financial literacy, you stress that, and stress that they put in programs for financial literacy. And others might talk about American history, and people are forgetting about American history and civics. Well, that's another thing. You go to your superintendent to do this. And the same thing goes for the use of money. You have certain needs, and those needs vary from district to district within the state. And it's an enormous state, like as I said before, over 750 individual school districts, but each one has their own priorities, and no two districts are the same. And it's extremely important that the parents, the concerned people of that district in education, go and tell their local superintendents, this is what we should be doing, and are we doing it? I don't know. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments or concerns you would like to bring up with Assemblyman? Okay, so Angela, you have your hands up.
Let me answer Angela's, and then because I believe Angela comes from my own district, and
Yes.
then I'm going to run out of here because I got to get back to session of my committee meetings. So
Perfecto.
Angela, good morning.
Yes. Hello, Assembly Member. So appreciative that you are here. I just wanted to ask, is there a way of setting up a process where, and I understand your thought that, parents and parent leaders should be going to the superintendents to let them know what is needed. But it would be great if we were able to be provided with, what monies are being given to our individual schools so that we know what we're working with. And then maybe if there could be something where parent leaders have an opportunity to meet with you and kind of give feedback of like, these are what the needs are, so that when you are trying to making these decisions as to how the money is going to be allocated, you then have feedback, real-time feedback, I should say, of like, what is going on the ground. So I don't know if that's something that you've considered, but it's an idea that we have that may help in kind of closing out any gaps.
Number one, you mentioned about meeting with parent leaders and so on, and I will be delighted anytime to let those leaders come, let them express to me their feelings on certain areas, and maybe map out a road to accomplish just what you said. I had a group of, oddly enough, from New Rochelle, New York, near my district, but not in my district, to come down and talk to me because of a curriculum matter. And it's a very difficult thing to talk to them about it, because it's something that their superintendent should be doing. But in this particular case, we're going to have ongoing conversations because they are very much interested in redoing or restructuring, or maybe putting for the first time out there a more detailed curriculum involving Black history in the United States. Black history, which is glossed over today. Well, there was slavery, and then there were people, they were freed, and people like Booker T. Washington came up, and Rosa Parks, and so on, and the civil rights movement, and did not go below that to the real essence of what slavery meant, and the history of Black Americans in our country, and that we should dive a lot more into that. And I fully am behind us on this, but it's something that needs an ongoing commitment to see if we can carry this out. So to your point, the door with me, it's always open, and I would be more than willing sitting down with people to see how we can better affect channeling state money, city money to your respective areas that you consider to be extremely important.
Thank you.
Get that right, Angela?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, good. Listen, everybody, again, I apologize for giving you the bum rush like this, but they're getting on my case for not being in session right now and not being at the necessary committee meetings, okay? Unless you have something really important for me to go over, I will take my leave. Shirley, is that okay?
It's perfectly fine. We thank you for taking time, and we'll have you back on when it's not so busy. And
Thanks so much.
always reach out to us too if you like to come on and share.
Thank you. That's
Important
very nice of
information.
you.
All right, no problem.
Have a
So
good
thank
day,
you so much.
everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay, so we went through our entire agenda this morning. What's left is the chancellor, and I am going to ask Christina to come back on. I see I don't see Deputy Chancellor Lloyd here, but Christina, can you explain why the chancellor will not be with us, if you don't mind, please?
Absolutely. The chancellor and the deputy chancellor are trying to, they're in many conversations since like 6 a.m. this morning talking about, or 8 a.m. this morning, I'm sorry, speaking with and coordinating with the city and Office of Emergency Management to really think intentionally about the air quality and to understand what are the next decisions that need to be made for our students and families and our teachers and school leaders. And so they are in those conversations and in the bounds of making those decisions. And most importantly, of course, to this group, and are upholding the commitment to not only make the decision, but then make sure that the communication's ready to go so that folks on the ground get that information as soon as possible. And so it's really important that they finish those conversations and that they have those conversations and make those decisions. And so that is why they were not able to attend today.
Thank you so much, Christina. And do you mind taking questions? I have seen hands raised.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep, still here.
All right. So District 26, you have your hands up.
Thank you, Shirley. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Christina. Great to see you as always. I just have to say I'm a little taken aback that the chancellor's not on today because, you know, he's making these very important decisions. Health is absolutely health and safety #1 for our children and all stakeholders. But he has his whole team of parent leaders on here right now. And who better to speak with about this than us? And he should have taken 5 and 10 minutes and given us the information. We are entitled to it. And I am quite taken aback that he is not here. I was going to ask him the question of what the plan is for tomorrow. Look, we know these are tough decisions, but the decisions have to be made. As leaders, we all know that we have to make tough decisions and that people rely on and wait for information that we have to provide. PTAs and schools, this is a very busy time of year, as you know. We have contracted with different vendors for carnivals. I have a food truck scheduled to come to my school for staff tomorrow. And these vendors are buying food and packing up trucks, and they're asking us whether the event is on or not. So a decision needs to be made, whether it's yes or no for tomorrow. But again, I'm giving feedback. I just got an email from my vendor saying that they need to know by 2 p.m. today what is happening, or else we are going to lose our entire deposit and the event will not be able to take place. And this is financially affecting PTAs and schools. So again, yeah. This is a perfect opportunity. I know this is out of your control, but we need a decision. We want it now. We want it. It is now 11:12 a.m. They need to make a decision within the next few hours, if not earlier, for the next hour or two, and let parents and others know if schools will be open tomorrow. Just make the decision. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I appreciate that sentiment. I think that is the same sentiment that the chancellor feels, and that is why he's unable to be in this conversation, because right now he's currently in conversations, right? These conversations are not, these decisions are not made unilaterally. This, as you know, is a vast city and everything impacts everything else. I mean, just in our schools alone, right? You just described an incredible dynamic of like, if there is no school, then I have to call all these vendors, and that's just one part of your school. So that is definitely the most important thing on the chancellor's mind and his senior leadership team. It is done in coordination with all of the city agencies in charge of emergencies like this, and the mayor's office. And so that is taking place right now. It's been taking place for a couple of hours. So I think the decision should be coming. And as soon as it's coming, the deputy chancellor is very much committed to ensuring that the communications is out. So folks on our team are ready, designing, crafting communications either way so that we can press send. So we are very much committed to fulfilling what you are describing as such an important need to know.
Thank you. May I just say also, a parent-facing letter did not go out
I'm
yesterday.
sorry, Kathy, your time is
Certainly,
up.
if I could just say one more thing, please. Today it's my
Just-
last meeting. I just would add one more question. Is UFT and CSA in the room when in these conversations? Because if yes, President's Council, CPAC, Shirley, Randy should be in the room as well, representing parents. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Angela, you're next.
Hi, how are you? Dr. Melendez. I just wanted to piggyback a little on what you said. Just one aspect that's very important is also trips. Whatever decision is made, I would hope that they're also going to discuss trips, because I know of some schools in my district that are doing trips to, Great Adventure or various outdoor places for tomorrow, or to parks and so on. So just want to make sure that when they issue the decision, that it's not just going to be for those that are in the building, but outer trips as well, because a lot of that is happening in various schools. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're on it. I think it's all about the timing, right? As the sooner you know, the sooner things can be redone. But again, the decisions are a bunch of folks sort of thinking through what's the best thing to do for such a huge city. That includes not just our schools, right? And so they're thinking through those things in places I don't want to be in, but definitely our team is making sure that we have communications ready to press send as soon as there's more information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela. Then we have Adriana.
Hi, Christina, and hello, everyone again. I would like to echo a little bit of what Kathy was sharing earlier. I'm also incredibly disappointed again that the chancellor has failed to join us and have conversations with us. This is not the first time that this has happened this year, and the disappointment has kind of compounded and compounded and compounded every single time that there's been 5 minutes allotted for us, 15, 20 minutes, even 30 minutes is not enough time. We meet once a month. And if we're all here, it is inexcusable to me that he is not here. I do hope to see his face a lot more often and for longer periods of time next year, because I don't understand how the chancellor of the New York City Department of Education can reconcile not having these sorts of conversations as often and for as long as possible. I know you catch a lot of heat for this. I know it's not really in your control, but this is a public space. It's an open meeting. So it needs to be said, in my opinion. Thank you.
All right. I
always
Right.
welcome and appreciate all of your comments. I want you to know that I take them back. I want you to know that we're constantly taking your feedback, really thinking through it and figuring out ways to do better or to do more, right? And so don't ever feel a way about sharing. I think it's your responsibility as parent leaders to do just that. And so I welcome and appreciate that all the time.
Okay. So I don't know if Lydia can speak, but I think she's asking me to ask her a question. I just want to appreciate Kathy, Angela, and I'm sorry, Adriana, because you're speaking what every of us are thinking about. Because again, it is June, and especially for high school, there's a lot of events that's going on starting from June 1st. So even yesterday, not getting a timing, a quick response is affecting a lot of. I think sometimes it forgets that PAPTAs have a lot of stuff planned, and we're using families' money to support our children. So it's really important with those timely decisions. Half of us, because people were asking questions yesterday, were able to reschedule these vendors. But again, since there's a little bit more time, it'd be very appreciative that, again, so we know, so we don't lose money. The money is not ours, right? The money is for our children, for the events, and etc. So some vendors are understanding and some are not. So that's why when Kathy was like, our parents aren't at that table, because sometimes they forget that we're on the ground. We're at the school levels, even at some of the school levels, forget PAPTAs have stuff planned, even for events at the school. So timely information is very important for us to get, especially when there's an emergency. So Lydia's question is, if we have an after-hour prom that PTA is handling, it doesn't count for canceled events? So I guess if it's not hosted by the school, it's hosted by the PTA, will that be is that counted as canceled events if they got canceled, if DOE decides to cancel?
Right. I'm not sure what the guidance is going to be around the cancellations. Usually the cancellations come with all of the sort of explanations around who and what is being canceled. Excuse my dog. So I want to make sure that we get the guidance, and then I will circle back on that specific question if it's not clarified via the communications that goes out. But for sure, we'll find out.
All right, thank you so much. And Adriana?
Thank you. I just want to emphasize that point that you and Kathy were making again. It's again incomprehensible to me how large bureaucratic city agencies like the DOE are not tuned into the news, right? There have been reports of this massive cloud, excuse me, of smoke coming down from Canada for days and days and days now. And the DOE, along with a few other major city agencies, failed to plan in advance. If we are not capable of planning for major climate events like this one, where our air quality rating was almost 400, which is terrible, then how is it that we are supposed to trust that the DOE is capable of planning for what we know is to come, right? These kind of events are just going to keep happening. And we need to be able to trust that the DOE is not going to forget about us, is not going to forget about the fact that we run events, that we have people who count on us for information as well, because I don't mean to be offensive. They know that they can't count on you. The science is there, the science is shared, and there's no reason that these decisions weren't made beforehand, tentative plans even, right? If this happens, we'll do this. That's like basic admin work. I'm very confused about why decisions are being made today. That's all. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great summer.
All right, thank you, everyone. I just want to read Randy's comment. So if it's off school grounds, PAPTAs are autonomous and we should use caution, but I don't think we would have to cancel. I think I'm gonna agree with that. Plus, I think the best bet is to make sure everything is indoors, even though the advisory is supposed to be lifted up at 6 a.m., but it's a moving warning, so it might change. It might, the anticipation is that the air quality will be better by late morning, but we will see on that. But again, we are autonomous, and if the PTA is doing it, and it's not the school who's hosting the event, just keep in mind, you know, you can still have it, but take caution and keep the students indoors. I know some proms that was going on yesterday was in skew of getting canceled, but those who are having prom today are told to make sure the kids are staying inside, because it's, you know, it's June, it's nice weather, and a lot of these proms have outdoor portions of the event. So fingers crossed and see what happens. And because a lot of student activities like freshman orientation and a lot of activities were canceled yesterday for today because of the air quality. No outdoor events either. So we just have to be patient and positive and work together and keep each other informed and give some grace as well for those trying to communicate. And again, communication is very important, and we all have to work stronger on that. I'm going to stop the live stream right now, but I need, we're not going to adjourn the meeting, but I'm going to stop the live stream and we need to bring something up. So give me a second. Let me end the